Welcome to the Supplement Engineer Podcast. My name is Robert Chernetsky. Joining me today is an individual who needs no introduction, but will do one anyway. Four-time Mr. Olympia champion, Jay Cutler. Thank you, sir, for being here, Jay. This is a fantastic meeting, and I'm honored and truly humbled for having you on the podcast, sir.
We've been trying to get this done for a minute.
So just a little bit. So, a huge shout out to my Polish brother from another mother, Lucas Rakowski over at Prometheus for introducing us, getting us connected together, and making this podcast happen. So this is truly a special occasion for all the listeners out there. So how are things going, Jay? How was Las Vegas training and just life in general?
Everything is good. Vegas is quiet a little bit. We're starting to get a little bit of lift. I did travel, last weekend to an event in Utah. I go to Michigan this weekend. Business, of course, with being an e-commerce business, it's been very good to us during the time of the pandemic and whatnot. And fortunately, my model was perfect for the transition that we had to go through. But the parent schedule stopped. I mean, for 20 years I was pretty much active almost every weekend. And since I retired 7 years ago, that allowed me more time to dedicate to the fitness market and all my other ventures outside of fitness. But, I still promote shows and I'm still hands-on with a lot of appearance schedules, whether it be charity, military, or my show promotion. So it's, it's kind of a different time for all of us, but hopefully we're heading back in a better direction.
Well put. I'd like to rewind. A lot of the times when I have guests on here for the first time, I go and get their origin story, how they got into the fitness industry or the supplement space. But I mean, everybody knows you, your historic battles with Ronnie, your victories at the O and everything. So I'd like to start back in your history, but a little bit differently. Sponsored athlete brands and bodybuilder brands have been around a long time. Sponsored athletes have helped build the supplement industry into what it is. So if you could take us back to the first time you were approached by a supplement company to be a sponsored athlete, what kind of went into that? Was it after your first big win? What were some of the initial things that you had to do during your sponsorship, and how did that evolve through the years to the present times?
So I'm going to take you back to, I competed as a teenager. I became, number one teenager in the country at 19, winning the teen nationals. I did do some photo work for the magazines, Muscle Mag, Flex, and Muscle and Fitness. I had some contacts. So I was in California slightly after winning that teen nationals. I got to explore Gold's Gym Venice for the first time. I met Ed Connors, who was the legendary owner who helped a lot of the guys get recognition, was able to stay out in California. So I got to be around the mix a little bit. And I actually competed in my first men's division, open division show when I was 22. I won the Tournament of Champions. And during that time, I had a lot of contract offers. In fact, Joe Weider, who at the time owned the magazines, but owned a supplement brand, he actually offered me my first deal. And also Muscle Tech, believe it or not, when they were starting, before they actually launched the company, Paul Gardner actually, I remember sitting in my basement at my home in Spencer, Massachusetts, and Paul Gardner called me and said, I'm starting this brand called Muscle Tech, and I'd love you to be a part of it. But at that time, I was running a heating air conditioning business, and I was just, I was pretty financially secure. So I really didn't want to take the first offer. I wanted to prove myself. And the next year I came along, won the nationals, got my pro card at 23, and I signed my first deal with Joe Weider at the time, which was double the money he offered me the year prior. So I kind of, the weight kind of did me well as far as financially. And I mean, moving through my career, people know me through the different companies I represent. I mean, I was with Weider until 2000. I went with ISS Research for 3 years, who was the Oh Yeah company. They did the bars.
Yep.
I was with them for 3. And then I actually ended up signing with Muscle Tech for about 8 years. Then through my Olympia reign, and then I retired from, with them and moved over to the BPI Cutler Nutrition collaboration I did early on with the Cutler brand, and then a couple of years ago breaking away and relaunching, reformulating, and kind of reinventing the Cutler brand on my own. So I've been doing that since 2017, just pretty much get the brand, situated for about a year, and then launched, I believe in February of 18, I think I launched.
How does that work with when you wanted to start your own line back with the BPI days? Did they approach you and say, "Hey, we want to do an offshoot and have you be like the face of this"? So obviously, you were probably endorsing products or giving your thumbs up or approval or marketing certain products throughout your career. But then at that juncture, where was it you said, "Hey, I want to start my own line," or did they come to you and say, "Hey, we think this might be a good idea to give you your own line"? How do those kind of things work?
It's kind of funny, and it went back to almost the Muscle Tech days where, I would go up to Canada and we'd work with research and development. And each athlete had specific products that they'd actually endorse. And, for me, I got to sample a lot of products prior to release. So I'd get the white bottle sent to me down, and, they'd say, "Hey, try this. We want to do a review." And back then, I mean, pretty much the review was, a conference call of, okay, how did you feel? What could be better? What would you change? And that's really how they tested. And that's why, to this day, I give Muscle Tech a lot of praise. I mean, they call themselves Ayurveda. I guess they changed halfway through, but they were very, very particular about the products, and I used the products. I mean, what I endorsed is pretty much, they didn't have me on every single bottle. I mean, we launched a special, edition box that was in GNC, and we had a great partnership at the time. I mean, I think back then, I mean, Muscle Tech was, a $500 million a year company, with sales. So I was in kind of the heyday, and internationally that made a huge difference. And all the partners, I mean, it's before really direct to consumer was really launched out. Right. Mm-hmm. So, I had early testing procedure with that. And then of course, when I launched, with BPI, they were swinging in a different direction. They were trying to take marketplace, and I was the first bodybuilder they signed. So of course they said, "Listen, help us brand BPI a little further. And in the meantime, we'll work to develop the Cutler brand." And we kind of had different ideas with how we were going to launch that original Cutler brand. It was more based on an international only launch, because we just weren't sure, with the establishment of the whole BPI thing and competing with it, what was the big play. So we looked at launching internationally. And then of course, bodybuilding.com caught a glimpse of it, and they really wanted to do something with it. So we launched a Living Large trainer. We kind of did it through bodybuilding.com. So we did launch in the USA also. And of course, changing packaging a few times, testing different products, but a lot of bodybuilding products. I worked with anti-estrogen type products. Of course, the pre-workouts, everything's so advanced, Robert. That's the thing, is like every 3 years, it seems like there's new ingredients. And, people look at, back then we were launching proprietary blends, which of course today, if you launch a proprietary blend, you're like obsolete, right?
Exactly.
So, and I think, Derek, who owned that company, his whole motto was like, "Listen, I'm not going to have people stealing my formulas," because he felt that some of his stuff was a little, it was up to new age, right? I mean, that's really how he looked at things. So I understood that, and I went along with it, and we launched different products, and we had great success. But in the end, things change, retail changes, and partnerships changes. So we just I decided, like I said, to break away. And when I went and kind of reinvented this new brand, I mean, everything is kind of really up to age, and I'm still working on research and development for, I'm testing a new pre-workout, a new pump product that's, kind of a new ingredient right now. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that are still in the works that even, I could call you next week and say, "Hey, I come up with a new ingredient," right? There's something else that came out, and how the synergy is with another product. So it's pretty good.
Outstanding. Yeah, I think that's something a lot of consumers may not understand, is that when we have you have the high profile athletes, very rarely are they actually involved in like the nuts and bolts, the formulation side of it. Is that something that you kind of pride yourself on, is like staying up to speed and abreast of the ingredients, and actually having a hand on the wheel and driving, which way the formula goes, how it hits, what ingredients are actually in there or not?
Yeah, it's kind of funny, because I questioned yesterday about some combinations with caffeine and taurine, and so, like, we were talking about some different products, and they just banned taurine in the UK.
I wasn't aware of that.
So now, I have Prevail, which is my pre-workout. It kind of it's kind of sidelined, okay, now what do we do? It's about innovation, right? So it's almost like some things are a blessing in disguise, because like I love to challenge myself. I mean, as a bodybuilder, like I was challenged by winning the Mr. Olympia, right? Time and time again, and becoming the best at what I did. And not necessarily I'm trying to take over the world in the supplement thing. And by all means, am I not the most intelligent guy when it comes to ingredients? And some of these things I can't even pronounce. And I'm sure you go through that same thing, right? Yeah. But it's funny how everyone's body is going to react different to different products, right? Yep. And I can take a pre-workout and say, okay, well, I need, 5 or 6 grams of citrulline, where other people, they can go up to 10 and not feel a single thing, right? So it's really hard to, and it's just like, when you make a protein and the flavor is amazing, right? And I have isolate proteins, which I consider, the best, is really a big difference. I'm not really sure between a blend or, concentrate or whatever. I don't know if your body even really assimilates it that much different, but like hey, this flavor is great. And then you test it with 10 people and 10 people, one person says, I hate it, right? So it's really, really hard to come out with products that are just cater to every single person, but the majority work for. So for me, it's just, as a bodybuilder, I got to try different things. I wasn't honestly as knowledgeable about up to date ingredients as I am now, being an owner and kind of doing the research alongside with suggestions. But I do hand test every single product. Everything goes through me. I get the little white bottles. I say yes or no. Flavor, like I said, I like to test alongside flavor taste with a lot of people, because I've tested so many things. It's like, I'm a bodybuilder that will eat plain chicken breast and rice and whatever. Something that I want something to really be out of the world, because we know it's like taste, price. I mean, everything kind of goes along. It has to work too, but it also has to be price effective. And that's the unfortunate thing with making products, is you still have to be in a range. I mean, I launched Prevail pre-workout. I set it at $40. I had to come down to about $34.99 for the retail, which, I kind of knew that. I went a little higher. It's better to shoot a little higher than lower. Right. And we've had great success with that product. So it's really cool. It's just a learning curve for me. So for me to sit here and be on, these podcasts and be able to talk about the products and, what the future holds, or kind of how the process was done. I mean, I handpicked like each product, and, the flavors came along, and some of these flavors weren't planned. They just were like, okay, what does this taste like? Right. And that's kind of how it came about.
Gotcha. Yeah, I remember when I saw the new launch of Prevail back a little while ago, and I looked at that dose of huperzine. I'm somebody that loves nootropics, especially like the focus enhancers in pre-workouts. And I saw that 500 microgram dose, and I went, holy shit. I mean, I've never seen a dose that high in a pre-workout. I've seen like 250, 300 maybe at a max dose, but I mean, 500 is well within the safe range. They've used that in Alzheimer's patients and whatnot. It's just, I saw that dose and I said, wow. I mean, like, you're not coming to play with the dosages in these supplements.
Yeah. It's funny, when I started using like the Neurofactor at Alpha GPC, like I was like, man, what is this stuff? Right. And, we actually have a product called Cognition too, which is more of a cognitive product, which unfortunately, like a lot of people haven't caught on to as much, but, I like to call it, when I explain it to people, instead of saying a cognitive product, because people still don't even know what that means. I just say, hey, I have a smart pill for you. Right. So I do use that also. And I actually use Dymamine in that product, which I don't use in my pre-workout. And a lot of people do use it, which I know is banned some places, right? Internationally. Like I know that Australia just lists their whole ban list, which is like, is crazy. So, I'm testing different ingredients and how they go together. But as far as the pre-workouts, like that nootropic feeling is way different from some of the high stim stuff that I sampled and tried. And like I said, pre-workout still has to taste good. So, when I have a lot of women that say, man, your pre-workout's like the best, honestly, that's a great, great sign to me, because they're going to be more particular about the taste than these guys that are just dry scooping and taking a pre-workout, right?
Absolutely.
Which I'm not suggestive of, by the way. I know a lot of people that dry scoop. I just think, mixing it is always better.
Yeah, yeah. You get your little pre-workout ritual. You mix it up. You can sip on it, and then you make your way to the gym. In a timely fashion. I do love the use of neurofactor in both cognition and prevail. That is one of my ingredients that's very near and dear to my heart. I think it's highly underrated and underutilized in the industry. So I'm very glad that you're using both. It's using it in both of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of the newer ingredients. I think a lot of people starting to use it a little bit now. But it's been very effective for me. And like I said, Prevail's like one of our #1 sellers. Mm-hmm. And we have various flavors in that.
When you were getting the rebrand and relaunch going, how did you go about sourcing manufacturers and vetting them? Obviously, you had some experience probably back with Muscle Tech and with BPI, so you had maybe some relationships or encounters with contract manufacturers then. Did you do anything different in that? How did you go about vetting and saying, hey, because we know there's really good quality manufacturers out there and there's some not so good ones, but they'll give you a better price and they may or may not be lacing your products with other illicit substances. So how do you go, and I know you're somebody that takes pride in being involved in each step of your business. So what did you do to make sure that you had everything in lock and step?
Well, my 2 facilities that I worked with, I flew out and I toured both facilities, and I wanted to see, face to face. And listen, even today I got an email from another manufacturer last week. Now my brand is starting to get more recognition. So I think a lot of people are looking for the volume, and they probably realize it's there based on my advertising and everything else. And I was able to tour. So originally I flew out to Utah and I toured out there. I went to South Carolina, toured there, California. So I had like a lot of places that I was looking at. And of course, reputation. I just didn't want to go where everyone else was. So the places that I chose for manufacturing, it wasn't a common place, right? So I wanted to make sure that everything was legit, and I felt comfortable with the relationship, because I'm kind of more of a relationship guy. So if I feel I can work with someone, and also efficiency, right? How fast I can get products if, hey, I want to get this done. And listen, whoever works with different flavor houses too. I mean, we talk about the flavor, it still has to be right also. So I've gone through different experience. I've tested different products from different manufacturers, and I fell to the place where I felt most comfortable. And I have a great working relationship with. I've sent a lot of people to my manufacturers. I mean, one of my pill manufacturers, was a smaller, more of a startup, and he's grown tremendously since we started. So it's good to be part of that growth too, and have that relationship.
What drives the release of a new product? Is it something that you identify maybe as a whole and then a marketplace? Is it something that you personally want to add to your own supplement regimen? Is it feedback from the fans saying, hey, we're using this product that another company has, you guys don't have it, we want to see your spin on it because we like what you're doing, we like your lifestyle, your message, and all of that. So what's driving your product releases or reformulations, new flavor releases, things like that?
It's a little of everything, to be honest. I do get a lot of requests, and the requests seem to be what's on the market currently. So when you ask about, okay, holes in the market, I think we're kind of limited to this day what holes there really are, because it seems like everyone's kind of doing the same thing. So when I want to give an example, like when I launched Fundamentals, right? I always wanted to have a creatine product because I was a straight creatine user from day one. Yeah. And I still think it's beneficial for all types of athletes. Okay. So when I launched Fundamentals, I added, beta alanine in there and some leucine. And there was stuff that I added instead of having just a straight creatine or straight products. I like to have something that's a little more juiced up. You know what I mean? Right. So there's more benefits than just one thing. And that's kind of how I've kind of built the Cutler brand with products is, I don't want to focus on just kind of a cheap, get the job done for one place in your training or recovery or whatever it is. And I consider all my products mostly recovery products because, some benefits at every product. You're always taking most of the products around the workouts, right? I launched a probiotic recently that's done very well. And to be honest, Robert, I never researched probiotics prior to the last year before I launched that product, because you didn't hear as much about the stomach or hearing, okay, this really can help your cells repair and really make your body function more properly. Like back in my muscle tech, Weeder days or even BPI relationship days, no one spoke of a probiotic, right?
Yeah.
So the health side is more important. So the next product that I'm launching is the digestive enzyme. So I'm doing research on a lot of health side products also, but that's something that's not in the bodybuilder terms. We only think creatines, pre-workouts, carb products. And, like I said, I have to look at the cost of certain things too. And I'd like to make the best product there is out there, but cost effective for the consumer.
Well put. In your day, you mentioned that you were a creatine user from day one. What does your supplement intake look like now, and how, I guess, has it evolved through the years?
Pretty much social media tells a story because, what I do on social media is pretty real. I use pre-workouts, whether it's stim or non-stim. I use a recovery product, not as much, I'll be honest, not as much straight aminos. Like I have a Generate product, which is essential branch chain product. I use a repair product. So I have a carb cluster in there and I have dextrose, which is mixed with the aminos, right? Yeah. And I feel like I take that intra workout and it's absolutely amazing, right? I was always a believer in I used to use powdered Gatorade while I trained. I used cell. So I always thought, okay, the training needs to be fueled. So I use kind of an intra workout, and then post workout, I'll always carry some sort of a protein. I use my isolate, whatever flavor I decide to use. But to be honest, I'm not really much of a creatine user as much now. I'll be honest, because I'm not training for strength and I'm not really trying to put on any fullness at this point. I'll take a little bit, like I said, the cognition. I'm not using a fat burner unless I'm really going to diet down and get ripped, which I have in my line. So, pretty much protein, some sort of amino complex. And then the pre-workouts is pretty much my supplement regimen. And then the multivitamin and the probiotic absolutely every morning. That's what I take with my breakfast halfway between my meals.
With the top tier guys, and this is a question I've asked a few other individuals, is I've had John Meadows on the podcast and a few other big name bodybuilders. And one thing I'm curious about is, these supplements are marketed, like they've got the bodybuilders endorsing them, and or I guess 5 to 10 years ago it was more ubiquitous that the bodybuilders were really driving the supplement industry, the pre-workouts and all of that. And I'm curious to see, are you guys at the top level using these higher stim pre-workouts as much as you think like the average gym goer is using? Because the opinion I get is that most of y'all aren't using like super high stim stuff. It's either stim free stuff or it's very low stim kind of things. But maybe that's just a misguided interpretation.
Listen, it depends what company you're seeing, right? We've seen different brands have higher stim. So I was never the guy that said, hey, I want to try a high stim. I mean, remember, I really didn't, pre-workouts didn't exist, honestly, when I was even in the Mr. Olympia era. There was no, we got into like NO Explode happened. And then I was using like pump, whatever it was from Muscle Tech. It was like Nano Pump or whatever. So it was more like a arginine pump NO2 product, right? Instead of any high stims. I'd take ephedra caffeine before I trained. The original hydroxy cut or whatever was a good product. But I would take, more of a fat burner for a pre-workout. I remember training for Arnold Classics and Olympia. So I would use like when I was trying to lean down for shows, but other than that, off season, I really didn't take anything to go to the gym. I was so motivated. I was so, hungry to go train. I'd stop at McDonald's, get a black cup of coffee, 200 milligrams of caffeine and go hit the gym. And as we know, we say it over and over and over, right? Caffeine's so counterproductive in blood flow, right? And why do we continue to put these in the products? That's why, I thrive on like the stim-free stuff. So no, I've never been a high stim caffeine person. I don't drink energy drinks. I'll never launch one. I'll never launch an energy drink because I just don't believe in them. Especially at my age, right? I'm not trying to really get too amped up. Yeah. I'll have, like I said, I'll have a little bit of pre-workout in the morning. And that's more for clarity. Like that's one thing about my pre-workout is, you know, you can take one scoop of Prevail and you have clarity. You don't have like a speedy, like a jaw clenching type effect from that. So I never took high stems and I never researched which company had the greatest one. I'll be honest, during Ronnie's reign, when he endorsed NO Explode, I did buy some to try it. But, you know, it was okay. It just didn't mix well. So I wasn't really a big fan of it. And you couldn't shake it, right? That's the problem with the NO Explode. You couldn't shake it because the thing blew up.
Yeah, it's all the sodium bicarbonate that was in there. It would pop the lid right off of it.
Yeah.
We touched on the post-workout a second ago, and you said, you know, you would use some Gatorade powder or dextrose. Do you personally notice a difference between, like, we have some of the designer carbohydrates, we've got regular dextrose and we've got Gatorade powder, and that's what I'm more inclined to recommend to the average consumer or to the average gym goer. But as, you know, one of the premier athletes, do you notice any of these differences between like Palatinose, cluster dextrin versus just regular dextrose in your training or recovery?
Listen, I'll be honest. I mean, I've used Carbolin, everything. I used the Waxy Maize, dextrose always worked the best for me. I mean, to me, it was always like the best. I mean, that's what I used, right? So, yeah, I mean, the cheapest way was the powdered Gatorade. I'd go to Costco and I'd buy the powdered Gatorade and I'd mix that and I would mix it, you know, whatever with my protein. And there's always the like, hey, you're supposed to take your protein first and then your carbs 15 minutes later, right? I don't know really what the truth is to that science. I would mix the two together and I would just take it after I train. But I never noticed any different effect when I took any of these advanced carbohydrate formulas, to be honest.
What do you do as far as trying to reduce stress? Obviously, we're still in this Corona crap, and so there's seemingly no end to it. Hopefully, there is soon. But you know, what do you do? Because obviously, you're managing multiple businesses. You're still getting in your training. What do you do as far as lifestyle and supplementation wise, if anything, to kind of mitigate or just relax and unwind and deal with stress?
You know, I'm going to still give credit to my workouts because I don't just work out once a day. I actually work out twice. So I would do cardio and I kind of think about a lot. I process a lot. Sometimes I go for a drive and, you know, a lot of time I don't listen to music or anything. I kind of think about things and necessarily don't talk on the phone all the time. I go for a walk, you know, when I do my cardio, usually I'm walking. So I kind of enjoy like the peace, right, of that and just the quiet time. But I'm a worker, man. Like, you know, between running my Cutler stuff day to day, like the nutrition side that you guys know about, you know, I'm involved in so many other business aspects. And, you know, I'm running still, like I mentioned, the show promotions, and I have, you know, my Cutler Club, I'm working on ebooks and I'm doing, you know, digital online things. We're running the social media. Like I'm still hands-on with all that between my athletics brand and the nutrition and, you know, my own Jay Cutler page. And I'm doing YouTube videos, as you guys see, the Jay Cutler TV. I filmed yesterday with that. You know, I'm still doing collabs with different companies and, you know, I still have endorsement deals. So for me, it never ends. I mean, I'm shooting more content today. Tomorrow I do product images in the gym. So my days are pretty packed. And then I travel on Friday. I go to Michigan. So I do the meet and greet at an event out there. I'm training with a couple people. I have a couple friends that are coming down that are going to work out with me and that handle some of my distribution of the products and a few of the retail locations that I do. So the days never end. And of course, I have a fiance that I need to spend time with, so I need to be able to have quiet time with her too. So whether it's a dinner out or, you know, just last night sitting down and watching TV, we watched a little TV or you know, reading a little bit. I'm working, you know, I read a lot of marketing books. That's that's sitting on my desk over here. But I'm right now in the office. I'm filing when I'm not talking to you on this podcast. So
gotcha. Do you find that having your hand in so many different pots helps keep you energized and mentally fresh, or is it more of you're a jack of all trades but a master of none? Would you rather have a narrower thing and be able to go deeper on it, or do you like the broad space where you can kind of rotate from and that helps keep you a little bit more mentally engaged and fresh?
I love the challenge, and I'm not an expert at anything. And like I told you, I don't have like a goal as far as, hey, I want to be this secure or whatever else. I mean, I'm not trying to build the biggest supplement company in the world, but if it gets there, that'd be an amazing thing. I mean, I'm already past what I ever projected 18 months later. And as far as the business side, like I said, it's just a challenge that I live for, and where I leave my legacy. And I know people look to me for not only bodybuilding advice, but business advice. And I think, I try to tell people it's based on a lot of relationships and really just taking the time with people and kind of learning what people are about, and, understanding that you can always be someone that can learn something and not be an expert at everything, right? Not a know-it-all. And, that's the truth, is like, I'm still learning day to day. I can tell you, yesterday, there's many things that I learned each day to day about different aspects of whatever it is I'm working on. And listen, I make mistakes. Like, we all make mistakes. And fortunately for me, it's been less mistakes than the successes, right? So I love the challenge, and that's why I continue to do what I do. And if I have an interest in it and I have a passion in it, it's easy for me to do it.
Gotcha. What mistakes would you say or your biggest hurdles have you encountered since relaunching the brand back in 2018?
I don't know if there's been a lot of mistakes. I think, one thing for me is, I launched, like I said, I launched direct to consumer, which I think was a smart play. I did not focus on any retail, and I still don't have an abundance of retail. And I don't know, if I want to continue to grow the brand, it's, of course, now with the people accepting and knowing that the products are out there, I'm getting many, many requests each week. And it's just choosing who I want in my channel to do the distribution. And, not everyone has the same agenda. So working with partners that have the same vision and have the long-term goals instead of the short-term money, that's probably the biggest challenge, because you want to have your brand at a certain level and maintain that level and not be devalued in any sense. And devalued, but I mean, when people sell online, they cut a lot of corners in order to gain momentum.
Yep.
And that's something that I want to protect with the brand, because I feel like you mentioned, there's a lot of brands out there, and there's a lot of cheaper products that aren't necessarily as effective.
Mm-hmm.
You feel things, but the benefits aren't necessarily there. So what I'm trying to do is just, number one, launch great products. Like I said, keep it price effective, keep them, that people want to come back and purchase. And my whole thing with my business is the customer acquisition, meaning I want the customer to have a great experience and come back. So, I'm working on, my biggest nightmare has been my shipping, and especially during COVID, because I've gone through USPS and we've gone through FedEx and UPS, and we're working closer with DHL now. And I'm working to always lower the shipping rates. Ideally, I'd love to have, the consumer pay no shipping. That's like my ultimate goal. If you ask me what my long-term goal is basically to have the Amazon-based model just straight from my website, where the customer, gets free shipping, which we offer on a certain package of products. But
right.
I would like to have that experience so the customer feels comfortable coming back. And, working on the subscription base, that's another challenge, like always trying to get, you try to make everyone happy. And I send personal emails to a lot of the customers. If there's usually a kind of a stumble with the shipping, I'm usually replying if the email comes through me, and apologize and try to give them a reason to come back and have a better experience. But COVID's really been tough with the shipping process. So that's been my biggest challenge. It's not really been the products as much. I mean, we've had great success. I mean, I have one product. I mean, I think the Cognition is probably one of my products that needs the biggest lift, but it's kind of a misunderstood product, and maybe not when you're looking in the fitness arena, right? That's maybe my clientele is a little more outside fitness, for people that's studying or whatever else, speaking or whatever. They'll stick to more pre-workouts than they will a cognitive product.
Yeah. I think that's one market where the industry as a whole does a better job of consumer education, is that it's just we had this amorphous understanding of what nootropics are, but I don't think the average consumer knows what the hell it's supposed to be used for, how it's supposed to feel. And a lot of these ingredients are very subtle, or they take multiple days of dosing in order to get some kind of benefit from. You can't just take, it's not like caffeine where you take it and your brain's automatically switched on. Certain things need to accrue over, weeks and weeks of use, kind of like beta alanine or something. But even then.
And that's, my fundamentals product. And you asked me like, I don't really use as much because I'm not as consistent with it, right? And I know it takes 7 days, or I don't know what it takes to build up your beta alanine resist, whatever it is, to be able to retain it. But like when I travel on the weekends, it's like, what if I don't train? Am I going to use the product or what? It's just different. So for me, I just I'm trying to educate everyone, but I can't get in touch with people. Only going to listen for so long. You speak for more than 10 seconds on a video and you lose people's thought, and they want to know, okay, what's the whole idea of this thing? The only thing they'll watch is me working out, like doing it. Like I put up a T-bar row the other day, and they'll watch me go to the 10 rep. But if I want to talk about supplements, people don't want to listen,
Yeah, it's the ever dwindling attention span of thanks to social media, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. With you mentioned customer acquisition a few seconds ago. Do you find that customer retention rates are high? Just there are so many good quality products, like you mentioned, and there's a ton of good ones, and you've got friends in the industry. So Fuad's got his line, John's got his line, Ronnie's got his line. There are a bunch of really good quality lines out there. Do you view these people who may be your friends as competitors in the business, or do you think there's people might find my stuff appealing and my personality, and they might find Fuad's or John's or somebody else's and they go at that? Or do you find that repeat customers happen, or is it kind of like, I'll try his pre-workout this month, I'll try his protein powder next month, so on and so forth?
I see it, Robert. I see people I follow on social media that buy the Cutler product and post it for a month or two. I've seen them post the Fuad's products or John's products or whoever else. I mean, man, you see different products, and there's nothing wrong with that, because even as a pro bodybuilder, like, I was willing to walk in and try something. Like I said, I bought the NO Explode when I was, a muscle tech athlete, just because I wanted to see what the hype was, if there was any hype about it. Mm-hmm. But, you're going to try different things. It's just like, you'll try a flavor of protein, right? And then you get sick of that, you'll switch to it. And if your brand that you're loyal to doesn't have the flavor that maybe you're looking for, you'll switch to another brand. It doesn't necessarily mean that I view that as like, hey, those guys are my competition, because I feel like, we all have room in this industry to be successful. And some people are never going to, like, I have people that are just loyal to the J brand no matter what, right? They're never going to buy another brand again. And I love those people too, but I if you were just willing to give my stuff a try, and, maybe it is, and maybe it isn't the best thing you've tried, but, they're always going to change. You're always going to change what I shop at Albertsons, I shop at Vaughn's, I shop at Smith's. I mean, I'm not even loyal to the grocery stores I go to. I mean, I buy cars from different dealers, right? I mean, I go to California to Mercedes, I go to, Las Vegas to Mercedes. Like, I don't know. It's where you're going to get the best benefit or the best deal. And, and that's why I try to give give people a reason to come back. Right.
Yeah. What is in all your years of supplement trying, do you remember a flavor that you absolutely just could not stand? They're like, I mean, so there's so many different flavors now, and maybe 5-10 years ago there weren't as many flavors, but do you have like that one flavor that no matter how many different ways you've tried it, it was repulsive no matter what?
I'd have to say more, I'd have to go back and really think about that, being, sprung this question. I mean, I don't want to sit there and call out companies like, hey, listen, when I launched Cutler, the new Cutler brand, I've tried a lot of things, right? Mm-hmm. But I've sampled some really terrible, like, where I'm like, why do you guys even send me this stuff? Because it's horrible, right? And I've shown that. I've shown on social media, like, this isn't it, Mm-hmm. But it's more of that taste testing than actually like, hey, I went out and bought this product and it doesn't taste good. I focused, like I said, I sit here and talk about the taste. I have this whole sour thing going, the sour candy. It's really effective right now. And it's amazing. Like, people want to have great taste, but some of the old school people are like, man, I'm sticking to the general flavors, to the peach flavors, right? The peach seems to be, believe it or not, is still one of the biggest sellers, which I'm not a huge peach fan, to be honest. So when I have like a peach repair product and I have a peach pre-workout, a peach, amplify and prevail, it's like, man, I realize how, a lot of people out there like peach. I'm not necessarily a peach lover, but I can't recall anything I could necessarily call out, but it's all pre-workouts. Like pre-workouts, there's a lot of bad tasting pre-workouts out there. Like they say, well, this is really good. That's what I mean. Like just drink it. And they go quick. And I think that's where dry scooping came from. Is, okay, I don't really like the taste mixing it, so I'm going to just dry scoop. And it disappoints me when I see people do that with my product.
Yeah, and I wasn't fishing or trying to get you to name a specific company or product or anything. It's more of like, I can't stand blue raz stuff. No matter every companies that I've tried, just that flavor for whatever reason, I do not like, no matter what. You could have the greatest tasting blue raz. I mean, it's still going to taste like blue raz to me. Other stuff, fruit punch, it's okay.
I would love to send you my Blue Straws Prevail and see what you think of it.
It's a blue raz.
It's a blue raz, but it's very popular.
Okay, all right. Well, I might have to take you up on that. But I do like sour candy stuff, or sour, lemon, lime, tart flavors and tropical flavors are usually my jam with any kind of powdered supplement.
Yeah, it seems like the 45 plus people are like, man, I don't really like that sour stuff as much.
Yeah. With your proteins, so there's been a trend to go with kind of gourmet flavors or like designer flavors, I'll call them, where you're seeing like unicorn sprinkled donuts, blueberry muffins, where, it still seems like there's a huge demand for really good tasting chocolate, strawberry, peanut butter, vanilla, like the core 4 flavors. How do you go about your protein? Do you like the designer flavors, or do you like the basics just done really, really well?
The basics. I mean, I've started with pretty much, I use the cereal type, the cereal pitch. So I'm trying to make it taste like, your favorite cereal. Yeah. So when I launched like my chocolate, it's like a cocoa flavor. I did a fruity flavor, which was like a fruity cereal. My cinnamon, it's like cinnamon toast flavor. And, recently I launched this, which kind of is off the cereal, but it was like a marshmallowy, kind of like a vanilla thing. Listen, I've had way more success than I ever thought with the protein, because as you know, protein's ridiculously big. And we have our major companies, which I'm not going to give them credit on here. But it seems like everyone buys the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was once told, and I don't know what the percentage, but they said 80% of supplement sales is protein. And I don't know if that's necessarily true, but you could maybe make your supplement guy. Tell me, is that still what it is? Or?
I mean, I don't know as far as the purchasing trends, that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I've got to think that like pre-workouts and fat burners, because just based on the volume of questions I get, like those have got to be the top 3. I mean, outside of like the multivitamin stuff like that, but I'm thinking for like the active fitness population, protein and pre-workouts are probably the top 2. It's got to be.
I think this stat came before pre-workouts existed, because I would, pre-workouts have only been around for, I don't even know how many years, not even, 10 years, whatever. But so I focus on I'm still new. I mean, I'm only 18 months in. So if you said, okay, what are your future flavors? Like I'm testing other new flavors, but right now, I noticed when I launched, like I originally launched, I think two flavors or 3 flavors. I think I launched 2 in the beginning. It was the fruity and the cinnamon. And then I added the cocoa flavor. And then I added peanut butter, which is phenomenal. And then I added recently the marshmallow, kind of the vanilla one. And I noticed that every time I launch something, it steals the sales from the other. So right now, I did launch larger versions. So I started with 2-pounders. I did launch some 5-pound versions, which I have a demand for, especially internationally. I'm working on right now for international a weight gainer, which not necessarily in the USA. People don't buy as many weight gainer products.
Yeah.
But I don't know how far I'm going to advance with this, Robert. I don't know, because I'm not necessarily a protein company. If there's the demand for it, I'll produce it. But I'm having great success. Like I said, a lot better than I ever expected already. And like we always say, the margins are a little less on protein, even though it's there. But you need the protein in order to carry the brand, in my opinion. Like, you have to have a protein in order to get people latch on to proteins, and then they say, hey, I like this in the range. And that's how you build the brand equity. You get that consistency with people when they can buy, their proteins, their aminos, their pre-workouts, their fat burners, whatever they like. They usually end up buying a multiple product base of a certain brand.
Yeah. This is one thing so we see 2 pound tubs, we see 1 pound tubs a little less frequently, and it's mostly 2 pound and 5 pounder tubs these days. And I'm always curious, how did they arrive on that number? And it's an answer I haven't delved into too deeply, or I haven't just encountered it. But why go for just a 5 pounder? Why not do like a 3 pounder or a 6 pounder or something else? How did we go from 2 to 5? Or the logical progression would be 2, 4. But it's weird like that. So I don't know if you've gotten anything on the manufacturing side or on like the brand owner side for why it went from like 2 to 5 pounds. But that's,
I mean, ideally what you want to basically do is buy a whole lot of protein, right? And I think when you break it all down, I know with me being a direct brand, the shipping between a 2 pounder and a 5 pounder is it's a little tricky, right? Box size, shipping, what you can pack inside. I have some custom boxes that I'm doing for my shipping, so the presentation's a little better for the consumer. But it's hard to, when you make, it's like this, when you make a serving sample, say you make a 10 serving pre-workout, right?
Yeah.
The cost is pretty much, it's almost the same to do, a 40 serving or 30 serving than it is the 10, because you have the bottle and the production that goes into it. It's more cost effective. Someone came to, okay, this seems to be the right margins in order. And, when someone goes and say, a protein sells for whatever is $45 for a 2 pound, people are likely to spend the $44 instead of, 64 or whatever else, right? That's why 5 pounds sell as well as 2 pounds. I mean, I know from, a company side, like, I do definitely sell more 2 pounders. And I mean, that's why I see the 1 pounders or whatever, 3 pounders, whatever. I mean, people want to sample them. I get more questions. Hey, do you have any samples of protein? But I don't do protein samples. I don't do it. But they don't want to go out and buy a 5 pounder instead of a 2 pounder. So I think it's just relative to what the consumer wants, really.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That was going to be one of my next questions, because I was having this conversation with a couple of friends of mine in the industry about sample packets, and it seemed like sample packets were a huge thing. Like, if you bought something from bodybuilding.com or any of the other big online retailers, they would toss in a bunch of sample packets. If you went to GNC, you get some samples and stuff like that. From the brand owner side, is it more of a hassle to do those, or do you think those actually entice people to purchase the products?
I think it's good to have them. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I do send out sample packets in some of the orders, right? The cost is, people don't realize how much they actually cost, though. I mean, the packaging and, basically, you can do 10 samples at cost of, making a real product, right?
Yeah.
So depending on where you go, how many you actually run, it can get really, really expensive. I do think it entices people if they're purchasing a pre-workout and you throw in an essential amino, like a Generate sample, they're inclined to buy that. Ideally, what I do is I put a discount, kind of a coupon on the back, right? So it gives them the discount, and it definitely will, if they like it, they'll come back and they'll purchase. But most of the time, if they've purchased online, they're on my email list and they'll be aware of what sales are happening and what kind of promos that I'm running.
Gotcha. We've seen a trend over the past year and a half so for powdered thermogenic. So basically, a powdered fat burner that you could drink, or like a pre-cardio kind of training something. And I know y'all have the capsule-based fat burner. Are there any plans to do a powdered thermo, possibly stim or non-stim?
I haven't spoke too much with this research. what we're talking about is definitely to do a nighttime sleep type formula, which, you know, is basically a stim-free, you know, not thermogenic, but metabolism type product. Okay. So I've never dealt with mixing any kind of a fat burner. I've never used one before.
Yeah.
So it's always something that I could do. I don't know how the industry's accepting that. I haven't heard much about it. I don't know who's kind of leading that innovation, but not necessarily a discussion in-house right now for a mixable fat burner at this time.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, the gist of it is it's like 100 to 200 milligrams of caffeine per serving. So like you could do 100 milligrams per scoop, and then they'll throw in like green tea or some GBB, maybe some yohimbine or something like that. And it's like a lightweight pre-workout, so it doesn't have the pump stuff in it, but it might have some beta alanine. And I've seen a couple, you know, several brands doing it. And I don't know if that was like the next big trend that's been going on, or if, you know, it's like we are an industry of trends. So I was trying to see if, you know, if that's in the works maybe or not, or if, you know, what else might be in the pipeline for 2020 and the rest of 2021.
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on like a carb like a disposal type product. I'm working on that right now. I am working on a different pre-workout. I did mention the Prevail and the taurine thing, but I was working on more of a built up pre-workout that I was going to launch separately. But, you know, maybe looking at some reformulations, maybe some additives. Like I mentioned, the enzymes coming. But as of now, I'm just kind of going in the next month or so. So that's kind of what I've kind of had in the pipeline. You know, the carb product, the disposal product is kind of what the next thing is probably going to be for the bigger stuff.
Gotcha. With the new restrictions that are coming down from both the UK and Australia, are you going to be maintaining separate versions of the pre-workout, or are you going to try and just keep one that's going to be compliant, I guess, around the globe?
My whole goal has been to have compliant products all over, right? So when you talk about the yohimbe, I don't ever plan on having like yohimbe in any of my products because it's just banned all over it. You know, that to me is like, you know, 10 years ago. But what I think my goal right now, and it was actually a discussion yesterday, is okay, it's about innovation, right? So ideally I can still have compliant products, you know, in all these places and have effective products. So that's really what kind of gone into the research starting today, because this actually was sent out in my email yesterday, is let's not tear down and just, you know, like kind of just restructure. Let's really try to reformulate this thing so it's best beneficial with some maybe newer stuff. Like I mentioned, I have a few people that are reaching out to me with some different ingredients that might be able to make this a much greater product and more up to date. You know, remember I launched almost 2 years ago. So if I can improve a product, I'll definitely work on improving it, since it already has the name and the recognition, and it has the, you know, the people that are fans of it.
One of the other, I guess, newer things that we've seen in the industry is limited edition flavors. So like Christmas comes around, you might do like a white chocolate peppermint bar. Halloween comes around, you might do a candy corn flavored supplement. Do you like that trend? Do you foresee yourself ever doing that? Or do you like just kind of you've got your stable of flavors, we're consistent, we're going to keep this? And so I always just wonder from the consumer's mind, I'm not somebody that likes to jump on limited edition stuff. I don't know how the average consumer is, but in your opinion, do you like that? Do you ever foresee Cutler Nutrition doing something along those lines?
You know what? I never say never, but for me, I just don't believe in limited things, because what if it's really good, right?
Yeah.
And I know, like, people say, okay, I'm going to take advantage of the seasoning, or, you know, if we do the pumpkin spice type thing, right? During Halloween, and then, you know, you mentioned the Christmas themes, and I don't know. That to me is like the lifestyle type brand, like people that are really have the active lifestyle people. So it's definitely general. And I feel like my people that buy my products aren't necessarily the bodybuilding people. I mean, I have a great audience, and it's very, very, you know, it's broad, right? So I'm not trying to build necessarily products for only the bodybuilders. I know some of the brands focus on that. But for me, I just want to have, products that are pretty general and all ages, body types. Not everyone's going to use every single product, but I just think limiting stuff, for me, I used to do this with my clothing brand. I'd say, okay, this is limited, but then it went off so well. Why not bring it back? Right.
Right.
So maybe seasonal things, there's nothing wrong with that, but I like, having a forecast of what I'm going to run for certain things and project, okay, this is what's going to sell. And I'm kind of getting those forecasts now as I've been in business that long enough now to do so. And it just makes it easy. It makes it better flow for the business instead of just shooting in the dark and trying to figure out what my consumer really wants. I mean, the difference between me and a lot of these other companies is, having a huge social media audience. I could sit there and say, hey, I'm going to launch this. What do you guys think? And I could get feedback a lot easier than some of these other companies could with the reach that I have.
Right. Yeah. And to double down on your point, I agree with that. It's like you go to a restaurant and you get the special and it's amazing. And then you go back the next week and it's not there anymore. My wife and I have had that happen to us. There was this fantastic little Italian joint we used to go to when we lived in Louisiana. And it would change. They had this awesome appetizer and awesome main entree. And then we never saw it again for like 6 more months. And I'm just wondering, and that's kind of how I feel with supplements when they rotate in these special flavors every now and then. It's like, wait, bring it back. You want it again. So just why make it limited when it's going to be a home run?
Yeah. But hey, everyone has their marketing campaigns. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. If everyone did the same thing, I mean, what fun would it be? So when someone says, hey, we're doing a limited release and they're featuring, a flavor that's related to the time of year, listen, all power to them. That's great. I mean, I'm not telling you that I'll never do it, but if I'm not planning it right now for Halloween or Christmas, if that's what you're asking me. And, but we could have this conversation next year. It could be a different place,
Right. Let's transition to some quick hitter questions and something a little bit lighter. We've been hitting pretty hard business and supplement industry and all that. So we're going to go through some fun questions now, if you got a second. What exercise, now that you're retired from bodybuilding, what exercise do you not miss having to do at all?
Heavy squats.
Heavy squats?
I still squat, but I only do a plate on each side, which people are floored. I posted a picture of my legs on my Instagram story yesterday, and I think people were like, I can't believe your legs are still that big. And if they saw how I actually train them, they'd be even more disappointed. It's not a lot of weights to, it just goes to show that, time under tension actually means something, and actually putting your mind to muscle connection, which experienced people only can understand. And then of course the nutrition, like the nutrition is key, man. Like we can talk about supplements till we're blue in the face, but supplements are supplemented in with a great program and nutritional diet platform. So you have to have a lot of variables in place to get the best effects.
Along those lines, then, how much, in your opinion, and as somebody that's competed at the very top tier of a sport, how much do supplements actually help, in your opinion?
It definitely gives you an advantage. And I can be honest with all the viewers here. Remember, I was sponsored most of my life. I mean, I remember buying my first jug of protein. I don't even know really what it was. It was called Perfect 1100, and it was sold in GNC. And I bought that at 18, and I said, this is a secret. Like I brought that sucker home and I sat it on my table and I stared at it because I was fascinated by the label, because it was just so good looking, right? And I drank that sucker in one day, Robert. One day I drank that whole and I shit my brains out.
I imagine so.
Because back then we talk about the evolution of supplements, right? Like I said, I don't know what was in it. Like I'd have to research and know, but it definitely wasn't the quality that we get today. And even the quality that you think you're getting, we talk about manufacturing and what you're buying. Not products are created equally. So I think, there's a great benefit, and I got free products my whole life. I mean, I used to get my door, even now stuff shows up on my doorstep. Okay. And I get to try everything. I do think, when you're into the training and all those things are in place, meaning the food, the sleep patterns, and your training is where it needs to be. The diet can only bring you to a certain level. When you start adding in supplementation, that's when you really you get the recovery and you get the performance that you may not get with just a straight diet and just listen to loud music or training in a great atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
But I always thrive on the recovery side, meaning, okay, how much blood flow can I get in here? How much recovery? Like, what am I taking? Like, I always suggest products during and after training. There's not much you take prior to working out other than maybe a pre-workout, but I can tell you my success didn't come from pre-workouts. They didn't exist when I was winning Olympia. So when Cutler Nutrition has a pre-workout in its arsenal, like, this is something that I use today. I mean, I probably use a pre-workout more than I use any products. And that's more, post retirement than when I was training for the Mr. Olympia. But I'm honest with my fans, I'm still looking at 47. I still want to have the performance in the gym. I want to have the recovery, and I want to keep body fat, most important thing, in the skin tight. So when you start talking about the health aspect, it all goes down to like how much water you drink in a day and how you're living your lifestyle stress-free. That's the main thing. Is the stress is the biggest killer for everyone. So got to keep the stress level down.
Yeah, definitely with that. Least favorite vegetable from your bodybuilding days, and does it still carry through to this day?
Asparagus, but most effective because it does work as a natural diuretic. So when I was like 3 weeks out from shows, I had to incorporate the asparagus into my program because it definitely gave me the water effect, losing the water. But man, when you went to the bathroom, the smell of that asparagus is not so good, especially when you're eating it almost every meal.
I imagine so. Favorite and least favorite protein sources?
I hate fish, but most effective. Okay, white fish was most effective for me to get lean. I like red meat. I mean, I like a good steak. Usually filet mignon. I love bison. I mean, bison's one of my favorites. I work and invested in a company called Trifecta, which is an organic meal company here. And the meats are phenomenal. I eat the chicken breast. And listen, probably chicken would be my second least favorite. But the way I actually, Angie actually cooks for me and spices that stuff up now. I love it. It's great. But bison is probably my favorite at this point, which I didn't eat a lot of bison when I was training full capacity. But the Trifecta bison's amazing. So I grew up as a farm guy. My brother still has cows. We raised our cattle, and he has the pig. He had 2 pigs there when I was just there 2 weeks ago that he's going to slaughter for his pork and whatever else. And we had our chickens and everything. So we were kind of eating the best foods you could actually eat back then. So I'm kind of an advocate of kind of the organic and clean eating type foods, not necessarily buying stuff at the grocery store as much.
Yeah. Growing up on the farm, I think you may have touched on this on Mark Bell's podcast when you did the interview with him a couple of years back. Do you think that the farm lifestyle and the way you grew up paid dividends and kind of built you into the man you are today, and was a precursor to your success on the bodybuilding stage, like ingrained in you the lifestyle habits and everything that were required to attain those levels of greatness?
Absolutely. I mean, the work ethic that I was taught from an early age, I was the kid that worked before school, after school, weekend, school vacations. I never had really time off. My dad told me once, he says, if you're not, working, hard enough, you're not really living the way you should. Right. So, you have to work always came first. That was one of his best lines. And, I learned the dedication, the hard work. I learned, the sacrifice. That was the main thing, is not like letting other things in your life kind of evolve as quickly unless, your work ethic was, your success was there. So when you ask me like, hey, what drives me? And, if there's a financial reason, like most people say, oh, I want to make a certain amount of money, or, I want to be recognized. Like I've already done pretty much that stuff. I live way bigger than I ever thought I would. And, to me now, my influence is more important, that can be positive for people rather than my success. Right. So, I was back on the farm 2 weeks ago. Very humble atmosphere. My brothers, And my brother's excitement was, bow hunting season was starting. He was going in the backyard to shoot the deer for the first time this season. And, he had a couple eyes on a couple that he had seen in the backyard. So for me, it's just that is ideal to me, especially at my age. Like I've already done that ladder to the top, and I've been on that high platform. And now, I look for more peace in my life, but it continues, that work ethic continues. And I love, outworking and outperforming everyone. And that's going to be probably my sickness till the end,
Gotcha. Awesome, Jay. Well, man, this has been a true pleasure. Thank you for making time to do this. I know you've got, like we talked about earlier, you've got a bunch of different businesses and you've got a rather jam-packed day. So thank you, sir, for making time to come on the show. This is the part where you can shamelessly plug anything and everything Cutler Nutrition that you want to, my man.
No, listen, everything's under Jay Cutler, whether it's Instagram, the website. I just want to say I appreciate the time. I want to thank once again Lucas, because he kind of set this up, and he's been, we toured together over in Poland. He brought me over there back in 2014, and it just goes back to the relationship type things. And if you guys, any fans out there that have met me face to face or in contact with me day to day, my dedication to the friendships and the responsibility that I take to be someone in this industry that people look up to and can relate to, because I'm never above and beyond anyone else. I'm just a normal guy doing what I love to do. And, hopefully I'll leave on all these people's lives and I unity, and things will only get better, man. It's, we have time this year with the pandemic, and I look forward to, really coming out of this thing strong, and hopefully I'll start touring again, and I'll be back on a military basis, be on my overseas trips. And of course, all the events, in the USA that are going to take place, including the Mr. Olympia at the end of the year.
Gotcha. Do you have a front runner, you think, for who's going to take on the title?
Listen, I mean, it was Brandon's show last year. He's a front runner. You got Phil Heath in there. You got William Bonnick. I mean, any one of those guys. I mean, Dexter Jackson. The field is very, very tough this year, but I think, right now I'd have to say, a guy that's won it 7 times, Phil Heath, has a great advantage to come in and win the title back. But Brandon Curry's not going to go lightly, that's for sure. So, he's in Kuwait training right now, really dedicating his life to it. And, he represented the title very, very well this year. So it's really hard when I'm friendly with all those guys and I'm rooting for. I'm a fan of every single one for different reasons. But I definitely would give the advantage to Phil and Brandon for your top 2 spots.
Perfect. Awesome, Jay. Well, thank you, sir. Continued successes with the brand and growth, and have a fantastic week.
Keep killing it. Thank you.